And we are back here at XGS with Playdate number 9, game number 2. And Ali, we had a great game number 1, a bit of an anticlimactic one, however, as one of the teams featured in this matchup, KARN and Co., secured their spot and, at a minimum, the play-ins for Group B by knocking off Aerial Arise and sending them home.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate exit for Aerial Arise, as they went out 7-3, which is not the fashion that you want to go home in. You kind of wanted that game to be a bloodbath at the very least if you don't secure your spot, but unfortunately for them, that is not what ends up being the case. Now, though, they have an opportunity to, or Aerial rather, not Aerial Carnico, excuse me, have an opportunity to more firmly punch their ticket into the play-ins with this next game.
Yeah, a win for either of these teams secures them third place and a guaranteed spot in the playoffs against a number 2 seed from the other group, I believe. I'll have to double check that here in a second. But nonetheless, we are ready to start talking about the roster. So we'll dive deep into those. And Wildcard Aces, they've had a bit of an up and down season so far. They're 2-3 right now. They're number 4 in Group B. But they recently brought Finns onto the roster, and Finns has kind of given them a spark. They've been playing much better overall since they brought in Finns. In fact, their first game with him, they beat Thrive, the number 1 team in this group, on Skyscraper 7-5.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Finns was, I think, one of the biggest pieces in the run that allowed Envy to win Element 2. And so he is a phenomenal pickup here for Wildcard Aces, along with people like Ozone, who brings a very experienced strategic voice to the team. They're kind of starting to assemble the pieces that they needed to pick up from all the roster changes that have been happening recently, kind of like some of the other teams. And now we're going to kind of get to see that in action. That is only half the story, though. We're going to revisit KARN and Co., as they are the second half of this game. And kind of like I said before, a little bit of a fresh roster, but they have very obviously, from that previous game we saw, put the pieces together in a way that is very effective, and now it's just about keeping that consistency going forwards.
Yeah, I think the biggest key for them was figuring out who fit where. Obviously, of course, you've got like KARN playing on that hard support IGL role, but then it was a matter of figuring out where players like Vertical fit into the team. Of course, as well, you had Nick and Rice recently join the roster. So I think it was a matter of, finding everybody's niche in how they wanted to play Siege, of course. But we are just about ready to get into the game. We got to talk about vetoes real fast and see where we're actually going to be playing this game. Worth noting that Chalet, Border, and Skyscraper are not maps that KARN and Co. like, and you'll see all of those banned out immediately by them. Wildcard Aces keeping things pretty stock standard, and we've got a fun map for the final match of Group B, as Ali, we're going to Nighthaven Labs.
Personally, Nighthaven is my favorite map in the competitive pool right now. It was when I was a player, and it is still while I'm a caster. So I'm always excited to get to cast it. It's a very interesting kind of map to see, as it does have kind of that clubhouse element of relying on a lot of fundamental play and teamwork, but it's also a little bit bigger, more complex than clubhouse, so it requires a little bit more team cohesion. And that combination is super fun to cast.
I almost think of it as like a clubhouse if it was in the future, kind of, because it has that more futuristic style of feel to it, with like some of those high-tech areas that, feel a little bit more newer than a map like Clubhouse. But also, yeah, like you were saying, it does play out in a lot of aspects very similarly to Clubhouse does. You've got kind of the area of warehouse, which plays out very similarly to garage. You've got rafters that you have to clear. You've got IT, which kind of plays out similarly to CCTV on Clubhouse. But then again, you've also got a place like Command that you kind of have to just sit back and play in, similarly to Cache on Clubhouse. So there's a lot of similarities that kind of like mirror both maps. And I feel like that plays well into teams that are good at Clubhouse, because they can kind of take those same fundamentals and translate them onto this map.
Another fun thing about the map, it has the Animus Room, which is like the thing they used to go back in time for Assassin's Creed, which I think means this takes place in the same universe, which means that it's like Watchdog, so there's just like a whole bunch of lore implications. So if you want a video essay idea, you're welcome. But here and now, Carnica, or Wildcard Aces, excuse me, are going to start off the bans with a Monty ban, which is very, very typical for the way the game is now, as Monty is an absolute threat to deal with in this current meta. And then the Dokkaebi following that up is the same ban that Carnico had opening things up last game, So far, kind of stock standard on both ends.
Most definitely stock standard, and I don't necessarily think that's going to change here throughout these bans. As Cade makes a lot of sense, it'll make it a lot easier to open up hatches like we talked about on Bank if you're playing downstairs in like the tank site and assembly because it's a lot harder to actually get into those sites if you have to worry about Cade. It means you have to bring a Thatcher pretty much every single round. And without that Cade, you don't necessarily have to. The Valkyrie ban makes a lot of sense as well. There's a lot of kind of like tight nooks and crannies that you can sneak those Valkyrie cameras into and gain a lot of information for the defense. So getting rid of that makes sense. And I feel like overall, both of those bans will just in general make the attacking lives a lot easier.
Do certainly agree there. And Valk, especially when you're going up against a team like Karnico that has these mechanical players like Nick and Rice and Vertical and Asian that can take your head off at any given point in time, it's not information you want to let your opponents have. Even though they are sitting on the defense, WILDCARD ACES have decided they can do without it if it means taking it out of the hands of the Karnico players. And they're going to go up to the top layer here for this first round, which is pretty typical here. The typical rotation you're going to expect on this map is going to be top floor, followed by the basement, followed by... It's kind of a toss-up for the tertiary, but usually I would expect control over kitchen. But either way, this is a map that kind of has a very, like, not set in stone, but very typical pattern that teams are going to follow. And so far, WILDCARD ACES are following that to a T.
I am very passionate about this next statement. If you go to kitchen, you are trolling. It is so hard to hold kitchen, especially if you bring something like a ram that can just tear the floor of meeting wide open, which makes it so hard to hold the site itself. Storage, you have a lot more safety on the more interior portions of the map that you can play off of and just deny time overall for the attack. So we will definitely see storage at some point if the defense has success. But initially, we will be going to the top floor, like you were saying. And initially, it seems to be a multi-floor clear for Karnico. And they will clear out Teddy very early on, taking the Oryx, one of the primary roamers, off the board. Not only that, they also did a little bit of, well, not necessarily damage, but they also scared Fens away as he was trying to take aggressive peeks. So I feel like we'll see Fens, especially now that he's in the man disadvantage, try to play a little bit more passively.
That is an interesting one to get off the board first, because he's kind of been like, and pardon this next statement here, the wild card player for WCA, as he's someone who gets in a lot of really awkward positions that the attack doesn't necessarily expect to get those aggressive opening picks. Except it's something that we see shut down pretty consistently, like we do with this map so far. And so just Karnico kind of being aware of it, aren't going to let that thing slide very consistently. They are going to start to open up things around the different areas of the map, the outstanding areas of the map, and just apply a lot of pressure to various angles that WILDCARD are going to have to deal with. Just kind of in hopes that there's a lot of phantom pressure that doesn't really give away where they want to push from. But that push on the Crunk, that does work out perfectly.
Yeah, Vertical being chipped away at just a little bit here and there, but nonetheless, Karnico emerged from the first half of the round with 2 picks to call their own. And that gives them a lot of control to work with here as they start to work their way in towards Connector. It seems to be a very Connector-oriented attack here. However, they do still have some pressure on other portions of the map that could potentially cause a little bit of chaos as these final 3 wildcard aces start to set their sights towards this Connector-sided push in order to kind of greet it head on. But just under a minute now, and a little bit of drone work coming in as well from Karnico to kind of suss out where these last 3 members of Wildcard Aces are. And now that they've got some good intel going in, they will start to open up some of these connector walls, and Fens will open things up for Wildcard Aces here, taking down Asia to make things a little bit more manageable for the defense as they enter the last 30 seconds of the round. The cross initially going in from Fens, and he'll lose most of his HP because of it, but now things looking even better for Karnico, as while sure the time is ticking away, they've got the HP advantage, they've got the man advantage, but not for much longer as Ozone and Reapus go big for 2 kills now with 15 seconds to go. KARN has to work his way back in. It'll be Nick with the next kill, but now he's all alone with 10 seconds to go. He's got to work his way in here, grab this diffuser, and take a fight with a shotgun at close range. It's not going to happen. It'll actually be Reapus to end out the opening round for Wildcard Aces.
Good stuff there from WCA to all just kind of get back to the site and play off of each other and utilize those power positions that we kind of see exist on that site, right? You have things like Pillar and the computer room, as well as IT even, that can all kind of be played with where where Karnako is actually pushing from. And that allows them to kind of just create this crossfire that Karnako have to push into that is a really difficult kind of crossfire to actually break into. And that's exactly what we see take place there. They end up losing out on those gunfights, which is going to allow them an opportunity to go down to this second floor or this basement bomb site here. And something that's interesting, I think, about this matchup is we talked a lot about how on Bank, previously Karnikov had some woes on defense. And this is a little bit more of a defender-sided map than Bank. But historically, Wildcard Aces has been very proficient on their defenses, which means that that attack half that we've said Karnako excels on before is, I think, going to be even more crucial here, as they kind of need to stop Wildcard Aces from running away with it this half.
Well, at least if you're going to go off that initial first round, I think it looks to be relatively close. I think there at the end, Karnako got a little bit stagnant, which resulted in them falling victim to some of the repositions that Wildcard Aces decided to go for, where they rotated their players and just overall played a little bit further back, not necessarily getting as much in the face of Karnako. And I feel like that'll be a similar story here, as Wildcard Aces will likely roam just a little bit, but I would not be surprised if we see them initially take some space back towards the site and instead opt to, you know, play a little bit more passively, play for the time as you do often see on some of these basement sites, where you kind of just bunker up in the late round.
Ben's going to get the opener onto Asian. That's the Twitch taken off the board. And the complete reversal of how the opening pick went last round. And he's going to follow up with another one onto Rice, doing what he does best and locking down the position that he's playing inside of. Kronk as well is going to go up to reinforce his teammate and make sure that Karnako can't clear him out effectively. There's no good way for them to just get in here and kill him. And they do have the information being provided by that Jackal, but it's not going to end up working out. Nick's going to get killed off. So is Vertical, and it's all left up to Carnage B in a 1 versus 5.
Oh, it's not going well at all. Teddy will swing from the heavens and end out that round for Wildcard Aces. A nice shot there and a nice little bit of anticipation outside of that garage breach. Wildcard Aces looking very strong here in their first 2 rounds. And I think, honestly, that round just comes down to a big intel gap from Karnako. They didn't really have a great idea about where the roamers were for Wildcard Aces, and that was pretty evident about the fact that Fens was literally just able to run around and take gunfights on the top floor. And while he took those gunfights, he was able to reposition himself and keep the attackers guessing as to where he would go and who he would fight next. So overall, you just kind of saw that landslide that happened for Wildcard Aces there, and Karnako really need to do something here to stop the bleeding, and I feel like this might just be the site to do it.
I do think as well there is something to be said for the fact that, like, the fights from what I saw looked pretty isolated that they were taking on Fens. Like, they weren't like trying to pinch him out, it was people peeking him one at a time. And with a player like Fens, he's gonna win those. And you can't just give him those opportunities to do that, especially with Kronk coming up and supporting him later in the round. Kronk didn't end up getting a kill, but he alleviated so much pressure from Fens by just existing on Raptors and just making sure that that side of the map isn't an option for what Karnako to push from. And so they need to get better at this, like, kind of teamwork and information game if they want to have a chance to get back into this.
Well, initially, Karnako looking to work their way in towards Warehouse, at least to put a little bit of initial pressure on a Wildcard Aces, maybe give them a little bit of fear as to the fact that they could potentially come in through Warehouse. But initially, they aren't really going to take anything in terms of initial map control, at least very quickly. They're right now just focusing on seeing if there's a potential gap that they could exploit, trying to suss out where some of these initial roamers and defenders in general are. Although, I am a little bit concerned about the fact that we're already 45 seconds in, and Karnako literally, I don't even think, are in the building yet.
It's not a good look here, especially with how aggressive Wildcard Aces are going to get as this round is going to go on. They're going to make sure that the later Karnako gets in, the more trouble they're going to have doing it. Now, they are over towards this meeting side of the building here, and they have started opening up some of these walls here to isolate these players. But there is still not a lot of ground taken by Karnako in the grand scheme of things, and that is really dangerous when we're kind of encroaching on the point of the round when you want to be working the actual site itself, and they still haven't even gotten the roam out of the way.
They literally haven't even done anything to this point. Teddy just swings out from warehouse, kills Karn, and there's no trade. Now Asian will finally end his reign of terror, and Vertical comes alive for another kill of his own. So now man advantage initially was back in favor of Karn & Co, but Fens is keeping his team in the fight, as it's now down to a 3v3. A jump in from Rice will be punished by Kronk, and Wildcard Aces are just still continuing to go toe-to-toe with Karn & Co. And overall, they are winning. Here comes a swing from Fens, misses the initial shot and will lose his life because of it. Nick on 2 HP is able to win that fight out. And now as we enter under a minute to go, another kill from Vertical onto Reapers will now leave Kronk in a 1v1 as he levels Vertical. And now on 2 HP,
Kronk!
Nick needs to clutch, but Kronk wins that one out. Wildcard Aces, flawless through the first 3.
Beautiful stuff there from everyone on Wildcard to keep that trade game going constantly. Karn could never get a confident foothold in the man count with how it was going, even when they got 2 kills to get the man advantage back. Fens has an immediate answer, and even though he didn't get the kill onto the player inside of Cargo, just the fact that he wasted that little bit of time and took off that HP just does wonders for how Karn & Co have to play out the remainder of that round. And then Kronk has the perfect positioning with that boss G to take that fight. And it's all downhill from there. And they're going to go back up to this second floor bomb site, for their 4th round on this defense. And we are seeing a little bit of a switch up. We're seeing that Melusi get brought out by Ozone in place of the mute. So he still has the soft destruction of the shotgun, but he's going to be able to place down some area denial on these various doorways. And that Oryx being brought out by Fens gives him a lot of versatility with how he can utilize this realm.
I'm really curious to see how aggressive Fens chooses to be here early on. I think he will be the big key for Wildcard Aces here to continue their flawless streak. He's been very aggressive to this point, and he's doing it again. Down below, over by 90 near Kitchen, he's just kind of off roaming, seeing if he can't shoot some drones initially from Karn & Co rather. But he's also just going to be delaying time and potentially being a thorn that Karn & Co might not be ready for. And it seems initially that they aren't. They have no general idea that he's there. And because of that, they will think that it's clear, and it will be business as usual for them, initially opening up some of these walls and setting themselves up for a potential push into the building later on.
The Frost is also something I think should be highlighted, just given that it's probably not going to get a kill on its own, but you know, it does get a kill on its own. Fens with a run-up. He's going to take out Nick and once again get the opening pick for his team and make things a little bit more awkward. Now, they really want to get this pick onto Asian as well, but no one's going to quite fully commit to it as they want to preserve the man count instead. But still, this constant outwards aggression is making Karn & Co have to be so cautious at any given point because there could just be someone peeking or someone just ready for that fight. And it is kind of showing with the way that they haven't really been able to get a confident foothold yet. They've opened up a lot, but they aren't really in the building yet.
It's not even really that kind of aggression where you're just like, you know, being in the face of Karn & Co. and like, you know, challenging them on their initial portions of the map. It's more of that like, I don't want to call it stupid aggression, but it's more just like outright wild, crazy, unpredictable aggression where they're just doing stuff that Karn & Co. aren't usually going to be ready to account for. Like Fens just ran out of like Mudroom and just found a kill over by Waterside, and I have no idea how he got away with that because he was outside for a solid 5 seconds or so. Now, approaching the minute mark of the round, it's going to be a connector push once again for Karn & Co. here as they're starting to work their way in towards E-Box, but some of these Banshees are going to be giving away the position of players like Asian, who's trying to work his way in, but Karn being greeted once again at the door. Spens gets another kill. Ozone gets yet another one, and Karn & Co. falling by the wayside in terms of the man count once again, as it's just Rice and Vertical left in a 5v2 with 30 seconds left. They've got a lot of work yet to be done. Fens with yet another kill, and Fens with a 4th flawless round from Wildcard Aces. 4-0 is the scoreline. Fens is just unstoppable to this point.
Oh my god. Gonna go get a timeout from Karn & Co. here as they see something that they want to just take a sec to figure out what the hell is going on and how they want to fix it. A lot of it is just the fact that this, like my co-caster was saying, kind of like stupid and wild aggression that's being thrown at them is making it very difficult for them to properly get a foothold. The pace is being set by WILDCARD and being maintained by WILDCARD. So KARN and Co. aren't able to operate on their own terms. They're operating on the terms of people like Fens and Teddy and Kronk, who are facilitating this aggression and keeping them at bay this entire time.
I would like to temporarily backtrack. You called me your co-caster. I feel disrespected. I have a name, my friend. At least use my name if you're gonna throw me under the bus for calling someone out.
All right, Eric. Listen here. All right.
I'm
You
listening.
have a buzz cut.
Hey, I was told it's better than my old hair. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I think if you look at me, you can tell that I'm partial to a nice head of hair. All right.
I know, but I'm just saying I got bullied by Goose for like 3 months to get this buzz cut. I am keeping it, for at least temporarily.
Got bullied by a guy named Goose.
No, I got bullied by a guy named Tristan.
Oh, that's even worse. Speaking of even worse, KARN and Co. down 0-4, not quite going exactly how they would want it to. Gonna go back down to this bottom floor here, and yet again, we're seeing a couple adaptations come out from the way that WILDCARD ACES is playing this. Kronk is gonna play that cap can that he loves so much, and I believe the bandit we're seeing from Reapez is gonna be new as well, and I think the plan is just kind of lock KARN and Co out of the sight as best they can, and just make them have to question literally every doorway.
About 30 seconds in or so, and C4 is raining out here from WILDCARD ACES, trying to just keep everything possible from opening up this main wall into assembly, and it will initially work. And now they're going to be able to put bandit batteries down on the wall. I don't know how WILDCARD ACES are getting away with all of this just so easily every single round. Finally, KARN and Co. will reestablish themselves and will finally start to open up some walls. I genuinely don't know why KARN and Co. are playing this so slowly. They're literally just playing into WILDCARD ACES' hands right now, because the more time that goes away, the more easy it is for Fens to just go to work and just start saying, I'm going to go kill everybody.
Not to mention, there's the cap can, which you have to check for when you walk through a doorway. And the less time there is in the round, the less time you have to do that. So he's going to be growing more powerful with each passing second. There are some KARN and Co. players inside of the actual building now. Vertical's made his way into storage, but he is probably going to be contested by Ozone here if he moves much further. Fens has the opener yet again, the fourth for his team in this game so far. And there are a couple different KARN and Co. players looking for him, but he's just going to get out of here and leave the rest of these WILDCARD players to just continue exerting pressure with their existence. They could go for an Animus drop here, but there are plenty of ways that the WILDCARD players could rotate downwards.
That is literally 4 opening picks in a row for Fens, but Reapez is going to be the next one looking to take fights against KARN and Co. as there's a Blitz Shield staring him right down inside of Tank. Flash Grenade is going to rain out to temporarily disable him in a gunfight, but Ozone's not disabled as he'll take down Rice. Now a 5v3 still in favor of WILDCARD ACES here with the time bleeding away. KARN and Co. need to make a play here, otherwise they find themselves staring down a 5-0 deficit. Another kill going WILDCARD ACES' way. Everything going ACES' way. Vertical will get 2 on his way out. Almost had a third one there as the player rotated out of Animus, but nonetheless, the damage is done. An ace clutch will be needed from Vertical, and he'll just feed his life to Fens, pad Fens' stats, and WILDCARD ACES 5-0 right now, mostly thanks to the heroics of Fens.
All right, so I'd like to make an official statement. This is no longer the defense half. This is the defense half. You see, he's kind of been going nuclear. Like you said, 4 opening picks in a row, which is a phenomenal stat to have. And is also just, I mean, even when he's not getting the picks on these peaks, just KARN and Co. are very cautious of where he could be. I mean, look at the guy. We've only had 5 rounds fully elapsed, and he has 11 kills. That is a crazy stat line to have this early on into the game, and it's completely halting the effort that KARN and Co. is putting into getting into the building and trying to establish a foothold, because even if he is not doing it, players like Teddy and Ozone and Kronk have been able to apply this pressure with Fens, and Karnico just haven't been able to deal with it so far. We're seeing a little bit of a reversion back to that form they had when they played against Thrive.
Oh, most definitely. This team looks even better than the team that just played Thrive a couple days ago. Like, Fens sure had a great game against Thrive, but if this Fens showed up against Thrive, that game would have been easily like a 7-3, 7-2. Nonetheless, we look to round 6, the final chance for Karnico to pick up an attacking round and keep themselves with just a little bit of hope heading into their defensive half. They are, once again, playing it very slowly. This has been a common trend for them throughout this game and really throughout the day as a whole, even dating back to the previous game. I wouldn't necessarily say to this extent, but still, when you're having to go against Fens on a level that he's playing at right now, I mean, sure, I don't blame you for playing this slow. It almost feels like they're playing scared, but I also think that you have to play quicker because that's going to happen. You waste time, you don't do anything, and you feed the 5th opening pick in a row to Fens, who's looking to find yet another one.
Might get another one, but no, shut down by Nick instead. It's going to leave a little bit of breathing room for his team now. He has had impact, 12 kills in 6 rounds. Nick, though, takes down Teddy on an attempted flank. That's the man advantage secured for Karn and Co. So far, at least. But there are still 3 defenders in fairly solid positions. This is a site that can be held largely vertically, which is what WILDCARD ACES are going to be leaning into now that we've gotten to this point in the round. And there's only about 1:30 seconds left here for Karnico to start working things, and Kronk has made his way onto the actual site itself, with still 2 players sitting up top. And that's going to give, honestly, a pretty solid coverage of the site here to WILDCARD ACES, and especially since Karnico are still being very cautious to watch for this aggression, that's a pretty good tone for WILDCARD.
I'm still scared for Karnico, I've got to say it. Despite the fact they're in the man advantage, their Ying is on 7 HP. They're going to have to be very careful when they go for an execute, because one stray bullet, one stray misstep, maybe even a Legion Mine misplaced, and Nick is just gone, and that's most of your execute utility in the grave, which will really hurt them, as they need to have this execute go off without a hitch. As we enter the final 45 seconds, WILDCARD ACES are just sitting back and waiting. They know they do not have to get aggressive here because of the fact that the scariness that Fens has put into their hearts has really slowed down and really hampered this Karn & Co push overall. Just under 30 seconds left now. A swing from Ozone will net Karn. A wonderfully played swing there, but no more than that, as Rice run right back in and shut down Rebus. Now, once again, man advantage for WILDCARD ACES here as we enter the dying moments of this round number 6. Kronk will potentially have an impactful carry on a swing in. Nick with yet another one. Ozone now felled. It's Kronk left in a 1v3 playing on Vigil. Gets 1 kill, maybe a second one here, but on the run in his vertical. That's actually vertical up above. Using his name in perfect fashion, keeping his namesake. Finally, a round on the board.
They're on the board. I do like the way that ending round was played from Karnico. After they got that pick onto Ozone offsite, they threw 1 player inside of Warehouse, 1 inside of IT, and 1 outside of the cargo window, and they completely locked Kronk into that position that he was inside of. And he isn't able to do anything from there because they just don't give him absolutely anything to work with there. And that is still a 5-1 half that Karnico are staring down. But it isn't nothing, that 1 round. Although Rice still only has 1 kill and Karn combines for Rice with 1 kill, so not the stat lines you want to have by this time into the game. And they do tend to play more supportive roles, but that does kind of speak volumes just about the way that things have been swinging so far. And you can bet that aggression from WILDCARD ACES isn't going to stop now that they're on the attack. Hell, it's probably going to get even more aggressive for them now that they are actually the ones who are pushing into the site. And if they can set the tone here, that could be fatal for WILDCARD.
Sorry, I don't know. I just looked over at Discord and saw something hilarious, and I've been like laughing ever since. Looking at this defensive half here for Karn & Co., They've got a lot of work to be done, of course, but if they can put together any resemblance of success that Wildcard Aces just pulled off, I feel like they'll be just fine. Overall, their strategy looks to be very different from what Wildcard Aces was doing, where for Wildcard Aces it was kind of just run around the map, get in the face of KARN as much as we can. Unlike that, KARN this time, or at least when they're playing on defense, are going to opt to be a little bit more passive. They've got a lineup that's much more designed to sit back towards site and wait for a late round execute and try to shut it down to the best of their ability, which I think will be a generally good strategy for them because we've seen them pull that off well before, specifically on the last map of Bank that you and I did. But nonetheless, with how aggressive that Wildcard Aces have been and with how coordinated they look to be, it still looks like it might be a problem. But here comes a potential rush in towards the top of water stairs. The blitz is just going right in. Ozone flashing things out. Damage being done both ways. Fens looking to add to his total, but they're being halted at the door here by two KARN players. They have to push past this barricade that's just holding them at bay. And meanwhile, their position's been given away. They have really nothing going for them. Their aggressive play seemingly worked initially, but KARN were ready for it. A swing out, Fens nets Rice. Now man advantage for Wildcard Aces. That might be just what they need to kick them back into gear.
It's his sixth opening pick in a row here as we sit teetering on the edge of an execute as he gets another one. We're going to have a jump in to Rafters as well for more pressure.
Oh,
but Fens is all they need with the blitz. And
oh,
4K for Fens and a flawless execute for Wildcard Aces as they get map and match points.
Oh my goodness. Allie, if I was to show you my note sheet right now, it would literally just say in my note about like the important factor of the round, it literally just says like 5 rounds in a row, Fens. In like big bold writing, just Fens. Like it's literally like just Fens versus KARN. It's Fens and Co versus KARN right now.
Dude, they brought back T-Hunt for this game.
I wouldn't go to that level because they've at least killed him a couple times. But 16-3, 7 rounds. Are you kidding me? What is happening?
This guy's cooking with a George Foreman grill right now.
I have no idea what that is, but I assume it's expensive and it's really good.
It's a brand of grill.
Well, I gathered that, but
I don't grill, so I don't know. It was from like a parody song I listened to like 3 years ago, and that's just the only way I know it exists. So there you go. But regardless, Wildcard Aces absolutely roasting KARN alive, 6-1 in round counts so far. As we see KARN or Carnage B adopt the moniker of James Bond, going 007 so far. As they've been completely shut out of this game. It's not even just Fens. I mean, he's the one with the most numbers on his scoreboard. But everyone from Wildcard Aces has been doing very well in this game so far in just keeping up that pressure and enabling Fens to do the heroics he's doing. Now, the opening pick streak for Fens has been stopped with Rice picking off Teddy, so that's your Glaz off of the board. That's a little bit of momentum swung their way, but we'll have to see how Wildcard look to counter this now.
It's a great start for KARN, but I was doing the math while you were talking there. Fens has more kills than the entire team of KARN right now. That is insane. And Reapus will add to his team's tally as KARN will go down. Now 008. Frank with another one. A plant going down from Ozone here, but Fens is finally put in the dirt by Vertical. They're definitely still in this round. The Solus up above will definitely be able to spot out this plant, but it's Vertical to kill Ozone. And now the diffuser should be dropped in the middle of sight. A decent play here right now for KARN, as they seemingly are in the best chance, in the best situation to take a round that they've been in quite some time. Looking to go for this plan here is Reapus, but there is still that Solus that he has to worry about. He will be able to perfectly call out the fact that the plant's coming in from above. No, he loses the fight on the Vertical to Kronk, but there's a quick trade from Nick. Now in a 1v2, a 1v1 as Reapus shuts him down on the flank. Now Vertical up above, has to deny here. Reapus still does have the diffuser in his pocket, so we can try to stick this as Vertical doesn't really have information on what's going on the site. Here comes the attempt from Reapus. Vertical looking to go for a drop here. Back into Animus. Gets off the plant. Heard the drop from Vertical. He's just waiting this out here. Reapus has another Grimby that he can send in, and now this is surely the death mark here as the Grimbies will give away Vertical's position. Here comes the swing in. Both players lit to just critically low HP. The Bailiff in hand, looking to go for the swing here. These players are just teasing each other endlessly for the last 45 seconds or so. Vertical trying to keep his team in the game, just waiting it out, trying to keep Reapus at bay.
Still back and forth. Reaper's gonna go for the swing, and he gets it off of the elbow peak. That's 7-1 for Wildcard Aces as they lock in their spot in the playoffs, or secure it more firmly rather, and send Carnico down to the pit of despair that they've only really seen once before this season.
Great stuff there from Wildcard Aces. This looks like an entirely new team with Fens at the helm. I mean, ever since he joined a couple of days ago and has been really playing with them consistently, they've just been lights out. Like I said, they beat Thrive. They destroy KARN here. And it's purely destroy, because it's not even close. 7-1 does not tell the entire story of that game. They got around, sure, but even then, every single round at some point, Wildcard Aces just thoroughly dominated.
Excellent point. Co-caster Zayshow adds I am proud on Twitter.
I
Thank
am
you for
Zay.
making it.
I'm T1 now. Let's go.
We are Zayshow. Thank you to, by the way, Stan Observes for giving us the tomfoolery of this broadcast.
Yes, go follow at Stan Observes on Twitter.
Go follow Stan. He's a great guy. I love him. One of my favorite producers, I think, that I've worked with, unironically, and I've worked with at least 2, so that's pretty good. Aside from that, though, I mean, well done to Wildcard Aces, right? Very well played from them. It's just unfortunate that we kind of see KARN & Co. fall so poorly. I mean, it's not a team that you want to see, like, have that type of performance, especially after a really good game versus Aerial Arise.
Oh, most definitely. And I really am concerned about KARN & Co. now, because Aerial Arise showed throughout the season that they're kind of not firing on all cylinders like they used to be. They are, I don't want to say a shell of themselves, but they're definitely not as potent as they were like back over the summer when they were like participating in like TPL finals and things like that. But in general, this Wildcard Aces team, they're really hitting their stride at the perfect time. And I feel like with how energized they have to be after some of these wins, they're going to be a dangerous team to go up against